This is the Speaking of Writers podcast. I'm Steve Richards. The book is The Haters. The author is Robyn Harding. High school guidance counselor Camryn Lane is living her dream. She is finally a published author after years of struggling and rejection. Her editor is happy, her teenage daughter proud, and her boyfriend and friends are all excited for her. She's on top of the world until she receives a disturbing message from an unknown sender. Robyn Harding is the best-selling author of The Drowning Woman, The Perfect Family, The Swap, The Arrangement, Her Pretty Face, and The Party. She has also written and executive produced an independent film, makes her home in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, with her family. Happy to have Robyn Harding join me for the first time here on the Speaking of Writers podcast. Robyn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
So where did the idea for this story, The Haters, come from?
Well, sadly, it came from my life as an author. It is just a fact of life these days. When you put anything out into the world publicly, you're going to receive scrutiny and you're going to be reviewed and you're going to get comments. And it's certainly not isolated to writers. But I did think it was really interesting how so many of my friends have gone through this as well and had people reach out directly to, tell an author that they didn't like their book, or, they should have changed this, they should have done that. And then I received a really abusive email, maybe a couple years ago now, that was, calling me, swearing at me and insulting my looks and, um, you know, accusing me of being involved in all sorts of conspiracy theories. And I was like, I'm done being that accessible. So I've always had a website with a contact me form on it, and I removed it because I was just like, I don't think I need to be subjected to that kind of abuse. And then I talked to my writer community, and everyone had had something like that. It seemed so many people had. So I thought, I think there is something really relatable to kind of everybody who, whether you have a business, a podcast, you're a journalist, you're a hairdresser, you're anything, that's the world we live in now, full of judgment.
Have you always read your reviews?
Well, not, no, I don't. I read them for a while. Usually when a book is brand new, I read a few of them to, kind of get a taste for how it's going, and then I stop. And so I don't have a problem with people not liking my books. You have every opinion or every right to your opinion and to post them in the appropriate places. And if I choose to go and look, that's on me, right? It's when people email me or tag me or message me on Facebook or Instagram to let me know that they didn't like my book. And I'm like, but the book is written. Like, I can't undo it now. So what is the purpose other than to hurt my feelings, right?
How much of you is in Camryn?
Uh, so people are asking me that a lot. Cameron's life is much more complicated than mine. She is a divorcee. She co-parents a teenage daughter with her ex-husband, and she has a much younger boyfriend. They don't have a lot in common. They get along great. But she feels sort of awkward about the age difference between them. There's a lot of complexities in her life, and she's a high school counselor. But the things that we do have in common are that we both live in Vancouver and we are both writers. Although The Haters is my 13th novel and Camryn is a debut, so she doesn't have the thickened skin that I have by now. She doesn't know that this is, having someone send you a nasty email might be just part of the cost of doing business.
Robyn, let's talk about Vancouver, a beautiful place you live in. How is the writing community? How does Vancouver inspire you as a writer?
Well, it's funny, I've been talking a lot about social media, the pros and cons of it. And one thing that's been so wonderful about it is the community of readers and writers that I have all over the world now. But I have some very close writer friends here in Vancouver. And honestly, I don't know if I would have met them without social media, even though we live in the same city. So it's been great. And, it is a beautiful place, and it was a great place to set a book. It also kind of mirrors the story in that, Vancouver, everyone knows how scenic it is with the mountains and the ocean. Well, not everyone knows, but a lot of people know. But it really does have a dark underbelly. There are a lot of problems here. Post-COVID, there's a lot of mental illness. There's a lot of addiction issues. There's a lot of unhoused people. It's not unlike many San Francisco, and you hear about problems there. And a shiny, beautiful city with a dark side. And that's sort of like the publishing, sort of what happens to Camryn in the book. She's like, this is my dream. It's gonna be so wonderful. And then there is this dark underbelly to her experience.
You mentioned this is your 13th novel. How do you think you've evolved as a writer?
Oh God, I've evolved so much. My first 6 novels, I think, were humor. So I used to write, I've been doing it for 20 years, and what was popular at the time and what I was reading at the time were, we called it chick lit back then, which I guess would now be called a rom-com, which is very popular again. But I loved Bridget Jones's Diary and Confessions of a Shopaholic. And my first novel was called The Journal of Mortifying Moments. It was a full-on comedy. So I did that for quite a while, and then I moved into screenwriting for a while. And when I decided I wanted to get back into publishing, I just realized that I had, gone to the dark side. I was really enjoying reading darker books and thrillers, and that was just kind of where I was at in my own reading. And I thought, well, if that's what I like to read, maybe I can write a similar type of book and someone else will want to read it. So that's when I wrote The Party. And I felt, it was just such a different experience than writing my rom-coms, because I did a lot more, I use screenplay structure to plot the novel out, because a thriller is so complex, and clues need to be planted, and pacing is so important. So I used to just wing it with my comedies, and now I plot more carefully. I'm not like one of those 8-page outliners, but I do use screenplay structure, and yeah, I have so much fun with it.
You're a little more of a pantser than an outliner.
Well, I would say I always know my big story beats, like, the end of the first act, turning point, and the midpoint scene, and, the climax. So I definitely use all of those big plot points, but how I get between them is I mostly pants it.
You mentioned rom-com. Romances this year have exploded. I was just reading an article last week about it. What do you think about that, and why?
God, I wish I knew, and I wish I'd thought of it. It's funny, I would have always said I'm not a fantasy person. I'm very much a realist, and I don't like supernatural. I don't like space. My friend always teases me how, like, I won't watch anything set in space because of the lack of color. Like, it's just so bland of a setting for me. But that said, I do love Game of Thrones and House of Dragons, and so these books that are, they're really resonating with readers right now. And I guess whatever those TV series had, these books probably have it too. There's a big Canadian author, Bryn Weaver, I think her name is. And that's what she's writing, and she's killing it.
Yeah, and I guess some of these readers now who are in their early 30s grew up with Harry Potter, so that's part of it
True.
too, I think, factoring into it. But very interesting. That's the hot genre this year. Let's get back
Yeah.
to your writing. When you're writing an emotionally draining scene, sexy, sad, how do you get in the mood, Robyn?
I have no problems with that at all. People often ask me, like, do you feel in a dark place after you write? No, I'm so used to it. And I remember doing an interview with Lisa Jewell, and she's like, oh, I'm a monster. I can write a rape scene in a coffee shop full of children and be completely fine. Like, she just, so it's just a separation. And I think we don't feel, we're definitely getting into a character's head and how are they feeling. But you have so much control as a writer, so you don't ever feel that kind of vulnerability, I think. So yeah, like, I just it just sort of feels very organic to move with your characters into these deep, dark places or emotional places. And you know, you sort of feel like you're like the puppet master.
How did you become a writer?
Well, I was very lucky in that I sold the first novel I wrote, which I now know how rare that is, um, which was a blessing and a curse because I think it did set me up thinking, oh, I've nailed it. I've killed it. I can do anything now. And then I didn't realize how up and down a publishing career is. But I had been working in advertising and I had just always been a good writer. I was working as a copywriter. I had two little toddlers at the time. And I thought, you know what? I'm just kind of, I had part-time daycare because I had my copywriting job and I would just bang out these ads that I was writing. And then I would work on this novel, this idea I had. And I managed to sell that book. And I've been very fortunate to stay in the game all these years.
How do you develop your plot and characters?
So, as I said with the plot, I do use screenwriting structure. So I start with a kernel of an idea, like a premise, I guess I usually would say. So there's something that I'll see in the news or a story someone will tell me, and I think, oh, there's something there. Like it's just an inherent writer's sense of, I think that could be a story. And all my writer friends are the same. They'll hear something and be like, that could be a thriller. Um, and then so then I use the screenwriting structure to kind of develop the plot. And then for the characters, I actually write character profiles before I start writing my novel. So I spend quite a few days just thinking about who these people are. And one of the challenges I find now, 13 novels in, is making them unique, you know, like making a new person every time and going, okay, what haven't I covered? What am I curious about? What kind of jobs? What kind of backstory? Um, so I do that for, you know, all of the main characters in a novel, and then I dive in.
If you can remember, what was an early experience where you learned that language had power?
Oh God. Um, oh, I'm sure there were very early experiences I should be able to remember, but I mean, I can think of recent experiences like, you know, the unfortunate human nature to feel a negative word much more than a positive word. So, you know, 99 wonderful glowing reviews and one bad one, you will feel the bad one.
You're hosting a literary dinner party. Who would be at the table, dead or alive, in terms of authors?
Oh my God, this is so hard. These are hard questions. Okay, I'm gonna go with Zelda Fitzgerald, not F. Scott, Zelda, because she was a writer as well.
And by the
Um,
way, Zelda spent time where I'm based in Asheville, North Carolina. Spent a lot of time here, actually.
oh, really? Oh, that's
Yes.
so cool. Amazing.
All right. So
Um,
Zelda.
Zelda, let's go Dorothy Parker. And then I'm curious to talk to Salman Rushdie after all that has gone on with him. Margaret Atwood, I've got to bring a great Canadian in there. And then I'd bring like a bunch of my present day writer friends who are so talented. Ashley Audrain, Liz Nugent, Jennifer Hillier, you know, lots of just so that I have my buddies around me. That would be great.
What books might we be surprised to find on your nightstand?
You know what? I'm not very surprising. I'm pretty predictable in what I'm reading. I read a lot in my own genre, but I did read after I just say I don't like fantasy. I just read a speculative fiction novel called The Other Valley. It is so genius. What is the guy's name? Scott Howard. Oh, I'm forgetting his full name, and he lives here in Vancouver. I haven't met him yet, but it's his debut novel, and it's so brilliant. So it's set in a fictional universe where there are three physical valleys, and in one valley you are 20, in the next valley you're 50, and in the next valley you're 80. So, and you can ask for sort of do-overs and reasons to move between these valleys and this time continuum, and it is really well done and really thought-provoking and super interesting.
Do you have a special place where you write, or are we looking at it right now?
You're looking at it. This is my little office slash spare room slash snoring room where my husband goes when he snores. So there's a bed. I don't know a single writer who doesn't have a bed in their office. It's always double duty. Plus my dogs sleep in here. I've got a dog kennel right next to me too. But
There's a lot going on in that room.
I know I push it all out of view for the when I do the Zoom.
And Robyn, are you hard at work on another novel? And if so, can you give us a sneak peek into what it's about?
Yeah, so I am working on my next thriller, which I'm under contract for two more books with Grand Central, which I'm very grateful for because I love working with my editor and my team. And this one is called The Spanish House, and it's about a couple from the States, and their marriage has been rocked by infidelity, and they decide to leave everything behind and start over in this house in the hills, up in the above the Costa Brava in Spain. And they're gonna fix up this old house they've bought. They're gonna plant vines and have a little winery and rebuild their love and their trust. And then this couple of backpackers break down on the road outside and outside their house and end up staying with them for a while and helping out. But there may be another reason that they are there, and everybody has some secrets.
That was a great tease for the next one. Robyn Harding.
Good, good.
What's the best thing about being an author?
The best thing is the actual writing. I love it. I know there's a lot of writers who say I love having written, but I love writing. I love, when you have a good day. Not every day is like that, but when you have a day where you're like, wow, I'm really on a roll here. This story is really coming along. I think it's good. I think people will love it. That's the best part. And also, I guess the flexibility. I have been doing this for such a long time, and my husband gets up and goes to work every day. I get up and go to work every day, but I just go like from my bedroom into my spare room, dog kennel office. And I can throw out a load of laundry, I can exercise, I can walk my dogs. I am really blessed. And I feel like on this promoting this book, I've talked a lot about the negative side because that is the plot of the book, but there is so much good. There's so much good about it.
And I'm sure when you get not the negative once in a while, like that negative email we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, when you get the positive feedback and how you've moved people with a character, with the story, that's got to be very
Yeah,
rewarding.
it's very rewarding, and I get so many readers are so wonderful and supportive, and I get a lot of emails that say, I hadn't been reading for years because, various things going on in my life, and then I read your book and I got back into it, and now I'm a passionate reader, and that kind of thing is very moving and very rewarding.
The book is The Haters, a novel by Robyn Harding. It is out now. RobynHarding.com, on Instagram, @rhardingwriter to connect online. Robyn Harding, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Steve. That was great to chat to you.
Thank you. Same here. And this is Speaking of Writers.